And now it's time for this hour's news review. Turkey's High Electoral Board has announced a presidential runoff after the two leading candidates fell short of a majority needed for an outright win.
It is clear that none of the candidates has gained the eligibility to be elected as stipulated in the fourth article of the law numbered 6271, and our committee has decided to hold the second round of elections on Sunday, May 28, 2023, according to the previously announced election calendar. According to the current unofficial results, Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan received 49.51% of the vote, Mr. Kemal Kilicdaroglu 44.88%, Mr. Sinan Ogan 5.17%, and Mr. Muharrem İnce 0.44%.
Both Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his rival Kemal Kilicdaroglu already expressed readiness for a second round. The Turks went to the polls on Sunday to elect 600 members of parliament and the next head of state. The turnout was reported to be close to 90%. I'd like to welcome my guests to this news review. Out of Istanbul, Press TV's Rashan Saklam and Ali Safari, journalist and foreign affairs analyst out of Tehran. Thank you both for being with us. Well, let's start us off in Istanbul. And Rashan, let's talk about overall, because it's rare that in Turkey there is a runoff vote. So let's start from there and possible predictions, what's being said.
Yes, Marzia, it's actually the first time that a runoff happens, especially with the presidential elections. And now also with President Erdogan, it is the first time and no one was expecting it. Previously, we were throughout the past month preparing to the elections. We thought that Kilicdaroglu is ahead of President Erdogan when it comes to numbers because he has 6 political parties supporting him in his alliance, and he also has an agreement with a Kurdish political party, HDP, also supporting him and voting for him. So we thought that he could be winning with some 51.4%, but it was unexpected, the results that we got. And I think the results is due to 2 reasons. One is Muharrem İnce, the candidate who withdrew earlier last week from the presidential run, and he got 0.4 something. Also, Sinan Ogan, the third candidate that was actually running alongside with Kilicdaroglu and Erdogan at the same time, he got 5 point something, and those numbers are not easy because they were the two, Kilicdaroglu and Erdogan were neck to neck when it comes to the numbers that we were seeing. Now, when we want to speak about the runoff, how it's going to take place, the numbers that both candidates can gather, and actually they both started talking to their voters and to people to vote for them 2 weeks from now. So if we want to speak numbers, President Erdogan got 49.51% now, and Kilicdaroglu got 44.81%. Now, if we want to see Sinan Ogan's voters who are going to vote for, I think that at least 2% of the voters of Sinan Ogan will go to President Erdogan. However, the other 3%, they're not going to be voting to Kilicdaroglu unless Kilicdaroglu made an agreement with Sinan Ogan so that he agrees with his voters or he convinces his voters to vote for Kilicdaroglu. So if this did not happen, I think that President Erdogan will win the runoff. But if Kilicdaroglu was able to seal a deal with Sinan Ogan, and Sinan Ogan was able to talk to his voters and agree with them or convince them to vote for Kilicdaroglu, Kilicdaroglu may have a chance of winning. Okay. However, it is very important to mention that voters of Sinan Ogan will never accept voting for a candidate that is supported by the Kurdish political party HDP, which says it is allied or it is the political headquarters of or the political wing of the PKK terrorist group. Now, also, we have to also mention that not all Sinan Ogan voters will vote for President Erdogan. It is due to their hate to the presence of refugees in Turkey. And this issue, if it was not solved by President Erdogan or there was no agreement reached by President Erdogan with whether the Syrian government, and we have been seeing meetings taking place in Moscow between Iran, Russia, Turkey, and Syria concerning that. So within those 2 weeks, if he was not able to solve the refugees issue, none of Sinan Ogan's voters will vote for President Erdogan. I think we are going to witness a very heated runoff 2 weeks from now, and both candidates have to work very hard.
Definitely sounds like it, Rashan. Let me get Ali on this discussion. Your overall assessment of the election in general yesterday, the amount of people who participated, how close it was, and what does it mean in general, in your perspective, for Turkey's future?
Well, I think this is quite important to note that the election was one of the most important elections that Turkey has experienced in its history, because Erdogan was in power for more than 20 years. And after the earthquake, which was one of the most important things against Erdogan, happened, all the prediction was against him. But what we have seen, although Erdogan wasn't successful in obtaining the absolute majority in the election, but he was ahead of Kilicdaroglu. One of the most important things also that in the earthquake region, which was one of the critical points for Erdogan, Erdogan also won all those regions. So one of the most important things to note is this, that although Erdogan wasn't successful in the presidential election, but he was really successful in obtaining the majority of seats of the Turkish parliament. This means whether the Kilicdaroglu win the runoff after 2 weeks from now, he will not be able to have any kind of changements in the Turkish constitution, including the political system, which is a presidential one right now. This is also important about the international issues of Turkey. Turkey is also facing with different challenges about the Syria, and also one of the threats that other allies of Turkey are facing with is about the whole thing with the Armenia, and also those things also will be affected by the results of this election, and I think we have to watch that closely.
So what's your, if you had to, assessing this situation, Ali, would you be able to call one of the candidates you think is more likely to win the election in 2 weeks?
Well, I think it really depends on what will we see in the campaign, the presidential campaigns of both sides. As you reported mentioned, one of the most important conditions that Erdogan has made for Kilicdaroglu support is that he has to give up supporting the Kurdish party. This means whether that the Kilicdaroglu leave the coalition with him, he will lose also about 50 or 10% of the voters that have voted from the Kurds region who voted for Kilicdaroglu. I think, based on the information that have been released right now, Erdogan has a better position, but this may change after the campaigns that we will see in the future.
Okay, well, definitely keeping our eyes in the next 2 weeks and see what's happening in Turkey. Thank you both for being with me. Rashan Saklim, Press TV's correspondent there in Istanbul, Ali Safari, journalist and foreign affairs analyst in Tehran. And thank you, viewers, for staying with us for another news review.